Diamond P Sports presents championship drag racing from the National Hot Rod Association. The 1980 Cajun Nationals. Brought to you by Goodyear Arriva, a steel-belted radial so new even its footprint tells you it's different. And by English Leather, the clean masculine scent in cologne, aftershave, grooming gear, and gift sets. All their men wear English leather or they wear nothing at all. And by Suzuki Motorcycles. When it comes to all-around performance, nobody outperforms Suzuki. One of our Diamond P camera crews has just measured this line of cars and trucks, and it stretches over 7 miles down the highway. The head of the line terminates at this rapidly filling parking lot. The occupants of all these vehicles in this massive traffic jam are crowding into State Capitol Dragway in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, to see the 5th annual running of the NHRA Cajun Nationals Drag Racing Championships. Hello everybody, I'm Dave McClelland, and the big story thus far of this Cajun Nationals Championship is Funny Car. Both the reigning and immediate past World Funny Car champions have failed to qualify, and that brings us to a man named Smith.
Dave, there's nothing fancy around here, no fancy trailers or high-priced chief mechanics. Just happens to be the home of the #1 qualifier in Funny Car, Paul Smith, who drives Larry Kugel's The Sting from Ohio. 8 years you've been at this, and your first really good chance of winning a national event. How does it feel?
It's kind of nervous, but, you know, I would say that we have a little better chance than anybody else, if the air stays the same.
You sit here and you look around the pits, you don't see Don Prudhomme, you don't see Raymond Beadle or Dale Pulley, the top 3 cars in the world, yet here's Paul Smith.
Well, the little guys are here now. Last night I raced Trip Shoemaker on that last run, run 6:02. He got out at the other end, and he qualified number 8. And he says, guess what? The big guys is going to watch the little guys race tomorrow off their big rigs.
Boy, he was absolutely right. Do you have enough parts to go the distance in this deal?
Yeah, well, we got a few pieces left, you know. If we don't hurt it too bad, we can go. I think we can go all the way.
So you're going to have to be careful.
Oh, yeah. But I would like for it to run 6:02 again. So I'm not going to back it off. It'll run good or burn it up.
Okay. Paul Smith, he's got a competitive attitude, the #1 qualifier.
There's no more competitive man in drag racing than Big Daddy Don Garlits, and he's sitting patiently waiting for the start of Top Fuel eliminations at the Cajun Nationals. We'll be back with that action in just a moment.
Bobby Unser, Richard Petty, Dan Gurney, Cale Yarborough. They put Goodyear's new Wingfoot radial through its paces.
It's quick.
Wingfoot, designed for the world's quickest cars.
It's a great road tire.
Built to give you a superb combination of handling and ride.
It really grips.
More agile, more responsive than any high-performance radial tire Goodyear has ever offered.
It's a winner.
Goodyear's ultimate handling option for your performance car. Goodyear's new Wingfoot radial.
It's a winner.
You ought to use Auto-Light.
Instead of your old worn-out plugs, put in new Auto-Lights. They've got a fused glass seal that gives you full power for starting.
I ought to use Auto-Light.
As you saw at the top of the show, this place is jammed. These fine folks at the end of the racetrack are enjoying a typical Cajun feast as they get ready for the first round of Top Fuel eliminations. Their counterparts, jammed into the grandstands, are patiently waiting as the drivers get ready for Top Fuel racing. Let's meet the first round competitors. Here's Jeg Coughlin from Columbus, Ohio, debuting a brand new car. The winningest Top Fuel racer ever, Big Daddy Don Garlits. The former world champion, Shirley Muldowney, the only woman licensed to drive a Top Fuel car. Frank Bradley, a former Winter Nationals champ, he hails from Napa, California. Gary Beck, now of El Toro, a former world champion, a former national champion, as is Richard Tharp. Tharp from Dallas, Texas. Jeb Allen, the winner of the most recent NHRA championship, the Gator Nationals. And Steve Stevens from Houston, Texas. Here's Big Daddy as he gets set, completing his burnouts. He watches his crew member direct him to the starting line. It's Big Daddy Don Garlits against Jeg Coughlin. Jeg bringing a brand new car to this event. He has tested it at a couple of tracks before bringing it to this championship race and has top speed of the meet set in qualifying at over 249 miles an hour. That speed, of course, attained in a distance of only a quarter of a mile from a standing start. In the near lane, Big Daddy Don Garlits, Jeg Coughlin in the far lane. Approaching the starting line, both drivers get set. And they leave the starting line. Very good start by both cars. Some smoke coming out of Jeg Coughlin's car, but Coughlin in an upset as Big Daddy Don Garlits is defeated in the first round of racing. Big Daddy losing to Jeg Coughlin's outstanding 5.99 second elapsed time. The time for Garlits, 6.02 seconds. Here we see again both cars leave the line simultaneously. They're side by side in the middle of the course. Here you see a puff of smoke or two coming out of Jeg Coughlin's car, indicating he's having some engine problems, but he still got there first.
Well, Dave, there's nothing but oil and steam down here, and a happy Jeg Coughlin as you start your newest Top Fuel career with a 3/100th of a second victory over Garlits.
Oh, boy, that was really close, wasn't it?
Looked like a dead even start.
Yeah, I think it was really good on the starting line. It's always tough when you run Don. He's quick, there's no doubt about it, but I'm excited because I got my kids and they're my pit crew, and we're going to do it.
Where does the big mile an hour come from here? You've already run 249 at track record.
Horsepower. What else? You know, you need horsepower to make mile an hour.
And certainly to beat Don Garlits.
Thank you.
Okay, going into round number 2, Jeg Coughlin.
An obvious happy Jeg Coughlin as he defeated Big Daddy Don Garlits. Here's Jeb Allen. He's 25 years old. He won the last NHRA championship. That was the Gator Nationals that you watched here on Diamond P Sports. He's up against Steve Stevens from Houston, Texas. Steve drives the Quicksilver car, one of the best racers ever in the state of Texas, qualified in this 8-car field, a very difficult task in itself, and he breaks traction, the car losing traction off the starting line, and it's an easy go for Jeb Allen. 5.95 his elapsed time, his speed over 240 miles an hour as Jeb Allen moves into round number 2 here at the Cajun Nationals. Jeb getting out of his car as it comes to a halt at the end of the racetrack. A very intense individual, hard-working young man, has won a number of NHRA titles, started back when he was 18 years old, the youngest man ever to win a Top Fuel title. Continuing on in the first round of racing, this is Richard Tharp. If there's to be a hometown favorite in Top Fuel racing, it's got to be the car of the team of Candies and Hughes. They're based out of Houma, Louisiana, which is about 40 miles away. Dallas, Texas, the home of the driver. He finished 10th in the world last year. He's a former world champion and a former national champ, as is this man, Gary Beck. Beck moving into the cockpit of the Larry Minor car at the start of the 1980 season. Finished runner-up to Jeb Allen just a few short weeks ago down in Gainesville, Florida. Right now, the action is on the starting line. Here you see the electronic starting device, the Christmas tree, from the driver's point of view. You're looking at it as you would see it in the eyes of Gary Beck and Richard Tharp. They approach the starting line. The 2 yellow lights at the top of the tree indicating the pre-staging lights are lit. That means they're getting close to the actual staging beam. They're lit, the tree is activated, it goes green. They leave the line and they are side by side approaching the speed trap. And Gary Beck, in one of the closest races you'll see, defeats Richard Tharp. 6.05 seconds for Beck, 6.056, just 0.006 of a second, the difference between these two cars. As they approach the finish line, you'll see they are side by side heading into the first speed trap, and Gary Beck pulls out the win by just a matter of a few feet. Here again, Steve Evans.
Well, they say drag racing is a sport of milliseconds, and Gary Beck just proved it by 1/100th of a second over Richard Tharp.
Yeah, it was close. I saw a lot of wheel and a lot of blue car over there all the way.
Did you think you won?
Yeah, I thought I had beat him. I was expecting a lot of charge from at the other end, but he didn't drive away from me. This car's not necessarily the fastest car on the racetrack.
By that you mean mile an hour?
Mile an hour, yes.
That doesn't win races, though.
No. What was the ET?
It was a 605. You're going to be disappointed with that.
605. Yeah, that's all right. We can. We've been trying to get it to come around a little bit, and it should do good for us. We can step her up a little bit. It's going to be close.
It's going to take a 5, consistent 5s to win it, though, don't you think, from here on?
Oh, absolutely. It's 8 car shows like this are the toughest around, and you get the 8 of the best in the whole world. And we race against these guys all the time, and they know us, we know them, and this is where it really gets tough. Now we're down to 4 cars. It really gets serious.
Okay, see you down here next round. Richard Tharp shaking his head. He didn't know that he lost. He wasn't sure until we told him.
And a disappointed Richard Tharp when he finds out not only he loses, but how close it was, just a few thousandths of a second, as Gary Beck wins that race. Here is Shirley Muldowney. Shirley qualifying very well into this field, has been an exceptional racer. She proved to everyone her driving ability when she garnered that world champion's title. The competition for Shirley is Frank Bradley. Bradley from Napa won the Winter Nationals a few years ago, consistently one of the strong competitors throughout the championship drag racing circuit, but he's got his work cut out for him on the starting line here at the Cajun Nationals as he takes on the lady, Shirley Muldowney. The crewman Ron Tubler saying everything is good, let's go racing. Shirley completing her burnout, making sure the car is right, intensely concentrating on both the Christmas tree and on the car, as the start is all important in drag racing. Frank Bradley coming into the pre-staging beams, waiting as Shirley approaches the starting line. Starter Buster Couch watching as Shirley gets into those light beams across the starting line, and both drivers are ready. A great start for Shirley Muldowney, and she is just out-powering Frank Bradley. And look at the time, 5.92 seconds. That's the quickest elapsed time in the first round of racing. Her speed over 246 miles an hour. As we watch again, look at the reaction of the chassis as Shirley lets the clutch out on that 2,000 horsepower dragster. The front wheels come up off the pavement, but the rear wheels with all the power that she needs. Frank Bradley nowhere in sight as Shirley crosses the finish line at over 246 miles an hour. A disappointment for Frank Bradley. His racing day is done, but he'll be back. It looks as if Shirley may be having some problems. Steve, what's going on?
Dave, Shirley Muldowney's dragster is high-centered here on the turnoff, and she's very concerned that they get it off before guys get down here. They're so proud of this car, they'll be really hot if they think it's scratched up or bent up at all. And rushing over is the Candies and Hughes car, who were beating the previous race. Their crew trying to help the turnaround officials pick the car up and bodily move it off of the high point here where the turnoff meets the return road. And as Shirley gets out of the car, she was much more concerned with the car, it seemed, than further competition. Now Shirley's fierce. She even broke a nail in this whole deal. She is very much a lady.
Broken fingernail and all, it'll be Shirley Muldowney into round number 2. We'll be back in just a moment.
In the split-second world of drag racing, there's no margin for error. Man and machine must function perfectly. When the green light goes on, the mind must shut out everything. Because at 150 miles per hour, reactions must be razor sharp. To win, it takes 3 things. Total concentration by the rider, a great tuner,
like my partner here, Byron Hines, and a great machine, like this Suzuki drag bike. Suzuki makes great street bikes too, as you'll see in the commercials later in this program. So like Byron says, stay tuned.
In spite of the fact he's about ready to go into the first round of funny car eliminations, Kenny Bernstein is taking time out to talk to some fans and give an autograph to a future world drag racing champion. A very happy young man indeed here at the Cajun Nationals. Meanwhile, over at the Trip Shoemake car, wife Susie Shoemake is involved in packing the parachute that helps slow that 240-mile-an-hour race car. She's getting some all-important expert advice and help from two members of the U.S. Army Golden Knights parachute team. Over on the other side of the pit area, Steve Evans has caught up with Don Garlitz after Don losing in the first round.
Well, who says motor racers aren't concerned about the ecology? Here's Big Daddy on his bicycle after a first-round loss. After 20-some-odd years, are you at a disadvantage coming into a race like this one you've never run before?
No, the disadvantage was drawing the number one out of the hat and having to be the first one down the track and take a chance on it. And it's, you know, we had a little smoke come off a tire there that caused him to get by me in the middle. Of course, he leaned on that thing pretty hard. I mean, as you saw down, oil down at the end, it was blown up pretty hard. My car's ready to race. It's just a little difficult to race under those conditions.
Had you been in the second pair and been able to watch a pair in front of you, you would have benefited from that?
It definitely would have benefited, certainly for the tracks that would have been set out there.
So it's a drawing out of a hat to see who runs first?
Yes, it is, which is very fair.
So you have no complaints on the system, really?
No, in fact, I like that system. It's better than everybody trying to jockey around back here and play games to get up there last.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Right.
Okay, well, thank you, Don.
You bet. See y'all later.
And see you later we will, Don, as Don pedals off in the expansive pit area here at State Capitol Dragway in Baton Rouge. Let's meet the drivers in funny car. This, of course, Paul Smith, the #1 qualifier. Kenny Bernstein. Bernstein now living in Dallas, Texas. Ron Colson, one of the premier funny car racers in all the country, drives for Roland Leong. This is Dale Armstrong. Quite a story here. He moved up from Pro Comp racing. Billy Meyer, young man from Waco, Texas. Henry Harrison drives a car called the LA Hooker. Henry, one of the journeyman funny car racers throughout the country. Trip Shoemake, driver for Johnny Loper. And this is Tom Hoover, the driver of the Showtime Corvette. We met all the drivers in the first round of racing. Here's the first car we'll be seeing in competition. This is Billy Meyer. He's sitting encased in the roll cage of the chassis. The body, the fiberglass body, is raised to allow the crewman in to start the engine. He uses an electric starter motor that spins over both the supercharger and the engine until it comes to life, the nitromethane fuel coursing through the fuel injector and the supercharged system. As the crewman gets ready to lower the body, Billy now beginning to concentrate on what he has to do. The first procedure is to get the body locked down, then he pulls forward into a puddle of water. This is the burnout area. All cars in competition in championship drag racing do burnouts designed to heat up the tires. The rubber compound used in these very wide slicks is designed to operate at the highest possible temperatures. So the only way you can get them hot on a race car is to actually burn them. And here you see the clouds of smoke coming off the burning rubber of those 17-inch wide slicks. Billy Meyer's competitor in round #1 of racing is Henry Harrison at the wheel of the LA Hooker. The Corvette-bodied car out of the Los Angeles area. Billy hailing from Waco, Texas. Billy finished 4th in the world in 1979, making a hard run for that World Championship title that will culminate out at the World Finals in Ontario, California in October. The burnouts for both cars completed, the drivers inching their way up to the starting line. 2,000 horsepower at the beck and call of each of the racers. Henry Harrison out in front of Billy Meyer. He's extending his lead. Then something's going wrong, and Billy from behind wins it. Billy Meyer, 6.51 seconds, 227 miles an hour, and he fell way behind right at the start. As we watch again, you see Henry Harrison in the far lane. Billy beginning to lose traction. He drops way back. Henry extending his lead. Then all of a sudden, something may be going wrong with Henry Harrison's car. Some smoke from Billy Meyer, but he's the winner.
So even the trouble-plagued races are close. In the 650s, both cars. What happened, Billy? We couldn't see from here.
It started sprinkling up on the start line. I think the window's got a little water on it and stuff. And I changed motors last night, as you know, and this one was just a little too stout, and it smoked the tires about 50 feet out. And
had a little trouble getting it hooked back up, but when I did, I guess he had trouble too, and I drove by him.
Well, you were both having equal amount of trouble, I guess, but against a guy like Henry Harrison, he'll never lift.
No, that's true, and I've always found that, you know, it pays to pedal it and get it hooked up and then get going.
By pedal it, you mean?
By lift one time and then get back in the throttle, and the tires should be hooked up by then. If not, you're way behind anyway. So.
Dale Armstrong, the driver of the Speed Racer car, moved up out of Pro Comp Eliminator. He had practically dominated that category in driving all types of cars, from altereds to alcohol-burning funny cars to dragsters, but this is his first shot at the championship circuit at the wheel of a nitro-burning funny car, and he qualified in a very, very tight show. This is Ron Colson. He's the driver of Roland Leong's Hawaiian. Both drivers setting themselves for the start. Side by side, they are at the middle of the course, and then Ron Colson pulls it out in the last few hundred feet. He just drives away from Dale Armstrong. 6.13 seconds his elapsed time. His speed over 242 miles an hour, and a tremendous charge out of Roland Leong's car with Ron Colson at the wheel. You see the move right here. Look at him pull away from Dale Armstrong. Ron Colson, the winner in round number 2 of funny car racing. A disappointed Dale Armstrong heads back to offer his congratulations to Ron Colson as Colson moves on in the single elimination bracket that is championship drag racing. This below qualifier, Paul Smith. The car is entitled The Sting. Alongside of Paul is Kenny Bernstein. Again, we look at the Christmas tree as it is seen from the point of view of the driver. In fact, Paul Smith would be looking at the Christmas tree just about the way you see it here. Staging lights are lit, the tree goes green, and Kenny Bernstein smokes the tires off the starting line. He backs out of it. Paul Smith very close to the center line, but an easy run, a fine 6.16 second, 234 miles an hour, and Kenny Bernstein just coasted through. It was at the first major race this season. He lost control of the car right off the starting line at the Winter Nationals and hit the guardrail. Here he was much more fortunate, able to lift off the throttle, bring the car under control, and Paul Smith very close to the center line.
Dave, Paul Smith concerned that he might have crossed the center line. You did not.
Didn't know. I thought I did. I come close, and I kind of drove her back there. I think it ran pretty good. Anybody here?
Yeah, it ran pretty good. This little budget operation just ran 6.16.
Oh, that's good.
She's fixing to get interesting around here. The Hawaiian ran at 13, now you at 16. Will the track take more power?
I think it's limited for today until it gets a little hotter, the track. It smokes tires in the middle, that's why I don't cross the center line.
And now, you don't have a trailer full of spare parts. Do you think you hurt it?
Yeah, she got some pistons. I think I got enough to fix it. If there ain't nothing else wrong. I don't have a spare motor with me.
If you ran out of parts, could you borrow them or buy them here? Or?
Well, I think I can borrow a motor from Kenny Bernstein, the one I just beat. He's my buddy.
Okay, Paul Smith is going to rely on some sportsmanship from Kenny Bernstein before this is all over.
The final pair of cars in the 8-car field that made up the first round of eliminations. Funny car eliminator, Trip Shoemake at the wheel of Johnny Loper's car, while Tom Hoover, the owner, driver of his own operation, the Showtime Corvette. These two men finished 6th and 7th in the world in last season's World Championship points chase. Proudly bearing the number 6 on the side of the car is Tom Hoover. Number 7 was Trip Shoemake. The overflow crowd looking on intently as both drivers concentrating, and a slight lead for Trip Shoemake off the starting line. And he holds on to the finish, a close race. Trip Shoemake 6.25 seconds. A losing time, only 6.27 seconds, just 0.02 of a second separating the two cars at the finish line. Shoemake held that slight lead throughout the entire quarter-mile race. And your winner, Trip Shoemake.
Another day, another dollar. Ow! I love it. I'm loving it. Okay.
Do you think Trip is just a little happy? We'll see him in round number 2 at the Cajun Nationals.
Shirley Muldowney.
Easy on the curves. Life isn't all spark plugs and horsepower. Even a champion racer likes a little soft music now and then. And an interesting man, anytime. English leather makes a man very interesting. Its clean, masculine scent gives him the inside track with me. That's why all my men wear English leather. or they were nothing at all.
Now, Goodyear technology brings you a new steel-belted radial for the 80s. Today, you need a tire that gives you fuel economy and all-season performance, wet, dry traction, and long tread life, hydroplaning resistance, and dry road stability. New Arriva. Even its footprint tells you it's different. Only from Goodyear. Goodyear Arriva. Goodyear.
Back at the Cajun Nationals, I'm Dave McClelland, along with Steve Evans, and the crowd that was in the pit area is now jammed into the grandstands, cheering on their favorites as we move into the semifinal round of Pro Stock Eliminator. Regarded by many as the most sophisticated cars in all of drag racing, these Pro Stock vehicles have the capability of going over 160 miles an hour. Quite a ride for their drivers like Lee Shepard of Arlington, Texas. He'll be facing Kevin Roddy. Roddy bringing his Camaro from Tucson, Arizona. Frank Iaconio comes to the Cajun Nationals from Totowa, New Jersey. And the man that's a legend in his own time, Bill Grumpy Jenkins from Malvern, Pennsylvania. Lee Shepard in the near lane, Kevin Roddy in the far lane. A pair of Camaros leave the starting line. A close race as we near the finish line. And by about a half a car length, Lee Shepard, the winner of 2 major NHRA championships already this year, wins in this semifinal round over Kevin Roddy. Elapsed time for Shepard, 8.56 seconds, speed over 158 miles an hour. After a year's layoff, Bill Jenkins back behind the wheel of his Camaro. These cars must utilize a body as delivered from the factory, but a lot of modifications are allowed. The engine's allowed 2 4-barrel carburetors, and they must run on gasoline. No better examples of the state-of-the-art than right here. Frank Iaconio, number 2 in the world last season, and Bill Jenkins, regarded by many as Mr. Chevrolet. Got a lot of competition now, and some of the best coming out of the team of Iaconio and Allen. Frank Iaconio with a hole shot off the starting line, and is pulling away from Bill Jenkins in the middle of the course, and it's Frank Iaconio into the finals. Over 400 entries began competition here 3 days ago, leading to that magic moment when a Cajun Nationals champion is crowned in each of the 8 eliminator categories of championship drag racing, along with Pro Stock motorcycle. We've seen Top Fuel, Funny Car, and Pro Stock. Some of the sportsman category racing was concluded earlier today. Winning the Cajun Nationals for the 2nd year in a row from Stuttgart, Arkansas, your stock eliminator champion, Dennis Oliver, some $4,000 richer as a result of his win. In Super Stock Eliminator, winning his first national event title, Charlie Taylor of Lumberton, North Carolina, taking home about $7,500 in cash and contingency awards. In Modified Eliminator, Garley Daniels, winning his 2nd title, defeated Pete Smith. Daniels out of Grantsboro, North Carolina, also about $7,500. In a pair of roadsters running off for the competition eliminator title, 25-year-old Ricky Clark from Hattiesburg, Mississippi, won his first major event title, defeating Robert Newberry. The final of Pro Comp Eliminators got a hometown favorite from Araby, Louisiana, a suburb of New Orleans, is A.J. Sarantine. He's in the far lane. In the near lane is Gene Bowl from Baytown, Texas. Both cars utilizing Chevrolet-type engines, running on alcohol in Pro Comp Eliminator. And Sarantini with low elapsed time of the entire event for Pro Comp Eliminator, 6.58 seconds. His speed, 208 miles an hour, winning his first ever national event title. A.J. Sarantine, the winner in Pro Comp Eliminator. Pro Stock Motorcycle finds Terry Vance, former world champion, riding a Suzuki against the winner of the Gator Nationals Championship from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Mike Keat. Vance doing his burnout, telling his crewman something is not quite right as he shakes his head as he gets pushed back towards the starting line. Superbike Mike winning the title at the Gator Nationals. He's got his work cut out for him as Terry Vance was the low qualifier in Pro Stock Motorcycles. Great deal of concentration by both drivers to avoid a red light with these tricky little bikes. And it is a red light for Superbike Mike. Terry Vance has the automatic win, but he's giving it a race all the way to the finish line. 9.07 seconds, the time for Terry Vance. His speed 146 miles an hour. Here you see just how it happened. He left too soon.
Well, talk about qualifying in a stacked deck. The #1 qualifier, Terry Vance, was the only rider on a Suzuki up against 7 Kawasaki's, but here you are, the winner, the Pro Stock.
I'll tell you, Steve, it's tough. I'm out of breath from the excitement of this thing. We've run real well, and we're really happy to be here. I'd just like to say thanks to the folks at Suzuki, and man, this is a hell of a race.
A lot of happy winners in our sportsman categories in Pro Stock Motorcycle. Here you see them again, winners at the 5th Annual Cajun Nationals. You can always tell when your luck goes bad. First you break your race car, then your tow vehicle goes away, and you're left with nothing but foot power to get you back to the pits. We'll be back at the Cajun Nationals in a moment.
And I personally assure you, you're getting a genuine bargain. I ought to use Autolite.
You ought to use Autolite.
Instead of your old worn-out plugs, put in new auto lights. They've got a fused glass seal that gives you full power for starting.
You ought to use Autolite.
Engine, unique 16-valve 4-stroke powerhouse. Suspension, multi-adjustable rear shocks. Aluminum swing-arm. And front air forks. Brakes, slotted discs. The machine, the new GS1100. Another great performer from Suzuki.
Semi-final racing in Funny Car Eliminator finds the #1 qualifier, Paul Smith, at the wheel of Larry Kugel's car called the Sting, racing against Ron Colson, who drives the famed Hawaiian for Roland Leon. The burnouts are over. The drivers, every effort now pointed to getting a good start. The winner of this race moves into the finals, and up in smoke goes Ron Colson. Paul Smith has got it made. The winner and moving into the finals for the first time in his career, Paul Smith. Here, as we watch again, you see the car of Ron Colson losing traction almost instantly off the starting line, and that puts Paul Smith in the finals.
Well, there was no question in anyone's mind that Paul Smith had the performance after qualifying #1, but they said he couldn't last. What do you say to that?
I say we got one more round, and we got 8 new pistons from the Blue Max, and we got her made, I think.
So you had to borrow some parts, but it looks like the Cajun Nationals might be almost here.
I hope so. I hope so. I tell you, I've been so close, but never got all the way yet.
A man that's been all the way, and he's been to the winner's circle before, is Ron Colson, but he will not make it today as the car up in smoke off the starting line. The final pair in this semifinal round finds Billy Meyer from Waco, Texas, #4 last season, racing Trip Shoemake. Shoemake out of Phoenix, Arizona, drives for Johnny Loper. He was 7th in the world last year. A very ecstatic young man after his first round win, but he's got some tough competition here with Billy Meyer. Again, looking at the Christmas tree starting system, you see the drivers pulling into the pre-stage and then the staging lights. When that point's there, the switch is thrown and the tree goes green, and it is Trip Shoemake up in smoke. Billy Meyer just as straight as he can be, but Trip Shoemake all over that racetrack. He avoids hitting the guardrail and avoids the center line, but it is Billy Meyer who moves into the finals. Elapsed time 6.32 seconds. That means Paul Smith, by virtue of his better elapsed time in this semifinal round, will have the all-important lane choice going into the finals. Here you see Shoemake using up all of his lane as Billy Meyer heads for the finish line. Steve?
Now, Billy Meyer, after a disappointing Gator Nationals crossing the center line round 1, here you are. You're going into the final.
Yeah, it's nice. I didn't, after that first round, we kind of made a mistake after we changed motors last night. I don't know why he gave me that lane. It's kind of the deal like I did at Gainesville. Why'd I give that guy that lane? And that does it sometimes.
You told me this morning that you really wanted a hot day, and we've got a very cool one, but it's still paying off for you.
Well, I thought I was going to run good first round, too, so can't always listen to me.
Racing moves to semifinal top fuel eliminator, the Slender Dragsters. The lady, Shirley Muldowney, in the near lane. Outstanding performances in round number 1 as she recorded low elapsed time of the round at a speed of over 246 miles an hour. A very dedicated professional racer. Likewise, her competition, Gary Beck. He's a 2-time national champion, a former world champion. Shirley herself won the world title a couple of 3 years ago. Would love to repeat here in 1980. The crowd on their feet here at State Capitol Dragway, all eyes pointed to the starting line, as it is Shirley Muldowney against Gary Beck. And a tremendous hole shot for Gary Beck. He's got a big lead over. Look at Shirley make a run for it. And at the finish line, it's a matter of inches. Gary Beck wins the race, 6.03 seconds. But the story is Shirley Muldowney, late at the starting line. She ran 5.92 seconds elapsed time at over 243 miles an hour. But as you can see, was unable to catch Gary Beck. Just a few inches separating the two cars. Shirley not knowing when she pulled off the track. Now she knows, and a very upset lady she is, as Shirley loses to Gary Beck in the semifinals. Steve, what did it look like from your vantage point down in the turnoff area?
Well, Dave, down here, neither driver had any idea who won the closest drag race of the day. It still takes a driver in one of these machines. Horsepower alone is not enough. And Gary Beck gets off the starting line first to defeat a much quicker Shirley Muldowney.
Steve, Gary's taking the car back into the pits where the Larry Minor crew will be working on it, getting it ready for the finals, where he will meet one of these two drivers. Jeg Coughlin, bringing a brand new top fuel dragster to this Cajun Nationals championship. It's already earned him top speed of the meet awards thus far at over 249 miles an hour, but he has got a very tough and intense competitor in Jeg Allen alongside of him. Looking at the Christmas tree from Jeb's point of view, Jeg Coughlin, something going wrong. The car lurching off the starting line, getting a red light. It could be an easy run for Jeg Allen, but he doesn't take it easy. Elapsed time, 5.95 seconds, 239 miles an hour, and that could be an all-important factor as he will have the lane choice over Gary Beck in the finals. A dejected Jeg Coughlin coasting through and making the turn off. He's happy knowing at least the car has the horsepower to run near 250 miles an hour. We'll be back at the Cajun Nationals in just a moment.
Introducing a steel-belted radial so new, even its footprint tells you it's different. Today, you need a tire that gives you fuel economy and all-season performance, wet, dry traction, and long tread life, hydroplaning resistance, and dry road stability. Arriva. So new, even its footprint tells you it's different. Only from Goodyear. Goodyear, Arriva. Goodyear.
I think women are becoming a little more frightening to men these days. Maybe because we're freer to do much more. But some men aren't intimidated at all. They enjoy our freedom. Those are the men I like. And you know, those are the men who wear English leather cologne. English leather fits the way they live. It's so clean and natural, and I love it. So all my men wear English leather, or they wear nothing at all.
Look for English leather in a wide selection of gift sets.
The Wizards with wrenches are hard at work in Jeg Allen's pit area, preparing his mount for the final round of Top Fuel Eliminator. The engine stripped down to the bare bones, the cylinder heads and supercharger removed, the pistons checked, found to be bad, and removed and replaced, as Jeb getting ready for his race against Gary Beck. All this work done in about 45 minutes to an hour's time, the engine completely stripped, reassembled and running with some 2,000 horsepower as Jeg Allen will be bringing it to the starting line in just a moment. Same type of action going on probably in Gary Beck's pit. Let's check in with Steve.
Dave, here in the Gary Beck Larry Minor camp, a fresh engine has been wheeled out of the trailer, lowered into the chassis, and they're bolting it up right now. Now, this is the engine we saw propel this blue car to the quickest elapsed time in 4 years on our last Diamond P show, the Gator Nationals. It's a 5.71 motor, and they'll need that kind of performance to get by Jeb Allen.
Before he has a chance to meet Jeb Allen, we've got some racing to watch, and it is the final of Pro Stock Eliminator. Two of the best Chevrolets in the country matched up in the finals. Lee Shepard, the winner thus far of 2 major NHRA championships this season, the Winter Nationals and the Gator Nationals. He's got a big lead in the World Championship Series. The man that finished number 2 last year, Frank Iaconio, in the far lane. The engine's high RPM and a great start by Lee Shepard. He is pulling away from Frank Iaconio, and Lee Shepard, making it 3 in a row, wins the Pro Stock Championship, 8.60 seconds. His speed over 159 miles an hour, and he's some $12,000 richer as a result of this Cajun Nationals Championship. And that brings us to the Cinderella story of Paul Smith. As the crewman squirts fuel through the injectors, Paul nods his head, the engine comes to life. For the first time in his some decade-long career, Paul Smith is in the finals of an NHRA national event. Paul and partner Larry Coughlin have done an outstanding job preparing this car. They had to borrow the parts to get the engine back together to get it to this point. The body coming down, latched securely, and Paul pulls into the burnout area. Can you imagine what's going through his mind at the moment? After all the years and after all the hard work, the effort put forth today, what do you think about as you get ready to make the last run of the event? Then there's only going to be one winner. Will it be Paul Smith, or will it be the number 2 qualifier, Billy Meyer? Paul has been racing some 10 years. He's not a newcomer as far as his experience goes. Back in 1973 and 1975, he won divisional titles in the World Championship Series chase. Finished number 2 in the world in 1974 and number 3 in 1975. But in doing so has yet to win an NHRA national title. His competition, Billy Meyer, a 2-time national event winner. In fact, he was the youngest funny car driver ever to win a national title back in 1977. At the tender age of 23, he won the Fall Nationals. But the title at stake right now is the Cajun Nationals Championship for 1980. Paul Smith, Larry Coughlin teaming up with the Sting. Billy Meyer, his 18-wheel trailer, a large supply of parts, did not have the problems Paul Smith and the low-budget crew had in getting to this final round. But budgets mean nothing when you reach this point. It's man and machine against each other over a quarter of a mile from a standing start. It's championship drag racing. And Billy Meyer into a wheel stand. Both cars crossed up off the starting line. They recover, and Billy Meyer wins it. Burns some pistons in the process, and something apparently going wrong with Paul Smith's car. But Billy Meyer's Waco, Texas-based funny car is your Cajun Nationals champ. Let's look again. You see the wheel stand by Billy Meyer. Both cars losing traction at the start. They head towards the center line. They drive away from it. And at this point, Billy Meyer pulls away as something going wrong in Paul Smith's car. Piston smoke pouring out of the headers for Billy Meyer, and it continues to pour off the car as we join Steve Evans.
David's quite a sight down here as the number 1 and number 2 qualifiers make it to the final round. But it's Billy Meyer winning the race as they both encountered severe handling problems. Meyer's car steaming out of every pore, oil, water, you name it. They had the motor plenty hopped up to win this one, but it wasn't horsepower. It may well have been the valuable experience racing go-karts that Billy Meyer had years ago that paid off here. He was the first to recover and back on the throttle. We're chasing him down here, trying to get him out of the car, and I guarantee you're going to see a happy young man because his last national event victory was well over a year ago, finishing number 4 in the world last year, and out comes Billy Meyer of Waco, Texas. William, congratulations. What happened up there? You both were sideways.
Mine did a wheel stand.
Did it?
And then it smoked the tires when it come on the wheelie, and then I had to pedal, and I got crossed up and almost crossed the center line. I couldn't believe he didn't come by me.
And the last race in Gainesville, Florida, you did cross the center line, so you had to be a little paranoid about that.
I was trying my heart out, and I nicked her a little bit, too, I think.
By that he means burn some pistons. But you don't care right now. Pistons are cheap compared to the difference between win and runner-up.
That's true, I appreciate it. And the points held right now.
For sure. Paul Smith, the #1 qualifier, congratulating Billy Meyer. And Billy says he did a wheel stand. He had no steering, obviously. With the wheels in the air, the car got sideways. But he recovered nicely, and it's Waco Willie. And here comes his crew. Mike Guger and Rick Peters congratulating their star driver right now, Billy Meyer, the Cajun Nationals champion.
Steve, Billy Meyer's day is over, but an intense Jeb Allen is awaiting the Top Fuel final. We'll see it in just a moment.
In today's economy, motorcycles never look better. For example, a gas-saving 4-stroke engine, easy riding suspension, and front disc brake. All are standard on Suzuki's low-price GS 450. So you see, the economy never looked better. The new GS 450. Another great performer from Suzuki.
When we test Goodyear tires, we really test Goodyear tires for rumble, squeal, expansion slap, traction, shake, wobble, nibbling, bounce memory, stability, high speed, response quickness, hydroplaning, ice and snow skid, curb scuffing, tread wear, thump, slaloming, steering return, and roughness, to name a few of our tests. It's testing like this that adds that one crucial ingredient to every Goodyear tire: confidence.
Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
The engine in Jeb Allen's dragster comes to life as the intense young man of 25 flips down his visor, gets the nod from his crewman, and heads towards the water burnout area in preparation for his final race of the day against Gary Beck for the title Top Fuel champion at the Cajun Nationals. 6 times before, Gary Beck and Jeb Allen have raced each other. In all 6 times, Jeb Allen has been the winner. This is a rematch of the final you saw on Diamond P Sports of the recent Gator Nationals championships. At that race, as it had been 5 times before, Jeb Allen prevailed. There's some similarities between these two drivers. The only big difference is age. 39 years old for Gary Beck, 25 for Jeb Allen. Both drivers won their first national title back in 1972. Jeb was a youngster of 18, the youngest man ever to win one at that age. Gary Beck was 31 when he won his first national title, and that was the prestigious U.S. Nationals. Since that time, Gary Beck has won 7 major championship events and a world champion's title. Jeb Allen has 5 previous wins prior to this meeting. A lot of work done by both drivers and both crews to reach this point. Very evenly matched cars. They're capable of 5-second elapsed times, and we've heard Gary say it's going to take a 5 to win it. It's all on the line, some $10,000 in cash and contingencies, the Top Fuel title, and the valuable World Championship Series points. They leave the line. Jeb Allen out of control and crosses into the lane behind Gary Beck. And it is Beck winning it. 5.93 seconds. His speed, 239 miles an hour. But the real story is Jeb Allen. He loses traction right off the starting line. The car goes completely out of control. He keeps it off the guardrail, but he crosses the center line, and that makes him an automatic loser. Gary Beck into a wheel stand as he leaves the starting line. Here you see Allen starting to lose control. He tries to correct out of it, is unable to do so, and crosses over behind Gary Beck. Quite a distance separating the two cars, no danger to Beck. You remember how intense Jeb Allen was before the race? Look at him now. Disappointment showing even through the helmet.
A fellow competitor once described Gary Beck as having ice water for blood, a very non-emotional person, but I don't think we're going to see that when the helmet comes off. It's been since 1976. since Gary Beck won an NHRA national event. He won a world title prior to that, 2 U.S. Nationals titles. He now has a commanding lead towards the World Championship. Congratulations, Gary Beck.
Thank you very much, Steve. It was a pretty tense race. Certainly there's a lot of pressures behind this one. You know, as you said earlier, you know, Jeb has run a string on us. Looks like something happened to him down there. I don't really know, but this felt like a pretty good run with this car.
Irregardless of what happened to Jeb, the performance was there. The motor ran in the 5, so the engine change proved to be a wise one.
Yeah, this engine was, we knew it was stout. We probably should have had it in there yesterday.
Well,
I think we're going to see a happy crew coming down here. Jim Wright, Terry Caldwell, my wife Penny, Jim's wife Pat. It's going to be a great time in Hemet, California.
Yeah, when you make that phone call home, I'm sure your car owner, Larry Miner, will enjoy watching our telecast of this race, even though he couldn't be here. Here's the crew chief, Jim Wright, who has crewed on Indianapolis cars, virtually every form of motor racing vehicle, and Penny Beck. Oh, these people from El Toro, California, are just overjoyed winning this race. They were runner-up in Gainesville, Florida, 6 weeks ago, to Jeb Allen. Jeb had beat him 6 straight times. Is it okay, do you think? Jim Wright talking to the motors. Everything's okay. This is the motor they call Sweetheart, and it proved to be. David?
Our congratulations going to all the Cajun Nationals champions, and particularly to Gary Beck. His big Top Fuel win broke that 46-month-long losing streak, and most importantly, extended his lead in the World Championship Series points chase. Be sure to be with us when Diamond P Sports will present coverage of NHRA's Spring Nationals Championships from Columbus, Ohio. For Steve Evans, I'm Dave McClelland. So long for now. The 1980 Cajun Nationals has been brought to you by Fram, makers of oil, air, and fuel filters, windshield wipers, and Autolite spark plugs. And by Suzuki Motorcycles. When it comes to all-around performance, nobody outperforms Suzuki. And by Goodyear Arriva, a steel-belted radial so new, even its footprint tells you it's different. Promotional consideration provided for and a fee paid by
3-in-1 oil, the silencer.
What one product fills holes, molds, and repairs? The original 3-in-1 plastic wood.
Additional considerations provided for Castrol Motor Oil, the oil engineered for smaller cars. 4- and 6-cylinder cars rev high, run hotter, and can break down an oil's viscosity. That's why they need Castrol. And by King's Hawaiian Bread, the original King's Hawaiian Bread from Hawaii, an exciting new taste in bread, a winning new name in racing. Great for breakfast, lunch, and snacks. King's Hawaiian Bread, the original Hawaiian. And by Turtle Wax, the world's largest selling liquid car wax. Cleans, polishes, protects. And Turtle Wax Super Hard Shell Car Wax Kit. Cleans, waxes, seals in the shine. Executive producer of Diamond P Sports, Harvey M. Palish. Produced and directed by John B. Mullen. Coverage of the 1980 National Hot Rod Association Cajun Nationals is a presentation of Diamond P Sports.